And stand by for Steve Bone. How are you, Steve?
Very well, thank you. You?
Yeah, mustn't grumble, except there's no news, no transfer news, nothing concrete.
No, well, we've had one window gone now, hasn't it? That open and closed, and no incomings.
It was purely for Chelsea's benefit.
It seems to be, doesn't it? Yeah, it was a very, very odd little period where people could do business, but not many did. And now we've got to wait another week before we might do any business. I think it's the 16th or 17th that opens again, doesn't it? So soon be with us. But yeah, people are getting a little bit, not just Pompey fans, but I think a lot of clubs fans, from what I can tell, are getting a little bit sort of edgy and wondering when things are going to happen. It's all pretty slow so far, isn't it?
Well, the Championship, and as far as transfers, it's just still water, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's going to happen, isn't it? Probably, but there'll be one big transfer that will then set off a whole chain of other ones.
It must be a bit like buying a house or a flat. You're a part of a chain.
Yeah, that's
If we sell him to them, then we're going to need to buy somebody to replace him, and they're going to have to buy somebody to replace him.
Exactly, yeah.
I'd never thought about it like that.
And like the house buying thing, it can go wrong at the last minute, can't it? You think you've got everything in place, and then there's a curveball that you didn't see coming that throws the whole thing up in the air. And as you know, with house buying, it's the solicitors who make good money, isn't it? And I suppose the football equivalent is the agents. They're the ones doing the conveyancing here, aren't they? Probably. It's in their interest to keep some of these negotiations long and drawn out.
Just when we thought we couldn't see football agents in a worse light, Steve Bone arrives and compares them to estate agents.
I'm not saying anything about any particular agent or estate agent. I love them all. They're all nice people, I'm sure, deep down.
They've all got mortgages to pay, or not, probably.
Well, yeah, probably not now. Some of them. But yeah, we hope to see some new faces, don't we? There's been some other names talked about, hasn't there? I think you've talked about one or two on Pompey Sound. John Swift seems to be getting a bit of attention again.
I've missed that. Go on.
Yeah, ex-Reading and West Brom midfielder, ex-Pompey Academy youngster actually, and he's a local lad. He's a Gosport lad. He left Pompey at a very early age, went to Chelsea's academy. As with 95% of people who go to Chelsea's academy, didn't then get taken on by Chelsea. But he's had a good career, and he's played a lot in the Championship, most recently for West Brom. Central midfield player, sort of box-to-box type, scores goals, got a good record of goals and assists, I would see in a piece by Jordan Cross today, I think it is. And this piece is saying that Pompey are, I don't know if it's saying that they're monitoring the situation, keeping tabs on him or whatever it is you do. But this piece also says that he quite likes the idea of coming back, what would be sort of coming back home for him. He's seen what that's done for Marlon Pack and Matt Ritchie and people like that, and he's open to that. So it could be that the wage demands might be too high. He's a free agent though. He's been released by West Brom, so it's a possible. And I see you Pompey Sound people were talking about Abu Kamara again.
We managed to squeeze him into the agenda on a fairly flimsy basis, but yes, Hull. Sorry, come on, concentrate. Hull are having a little bit of a rejig of their forward line.
New manager, aren't they?
And that could mean that he's going to be facing competition for a place, and he may be aware of that. And he must know he's gone off the boil a little bit, because they've been writing about it up there endlessly in the Hull Gazette or whatever it is.
Yeah,
that he hasn't taken off. He hasn't done for them what he did for Pompey.
No, he hasn't. No. And sometimes certain clubs suit certain players, don't they? And it could be that we are the certain club that suits him. So yeah, again, it might be that the fee or wages are a bar to it happening, but at least we can go on talking about it until it doesn't happen, which is nice, isn't it? Gives Pompey fans something to dream about and think about.
Sini Yengi has told the Scottish press, the Aberdeen Post, that one day he dreams of bringing his children to Fratton Park for a game and saying to them,
nice, isn't it?
your daddy used to play here.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that.
It goes straight to the heart, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. He obviously, holds Pompey in high regard, as Pompey fans hold him in high regard. We mustn't forget what an important part he played in our promotion season. He wasn't as on the boil last season for various reasons. Injuries got in the way and disrupted things for him. But yeah, he's one that I think would be. You can always judge how well a player has done by you by what sort of reception you think they'd get if they came back with another team. And I think if he came back, not that we're likely to play Aberdeen in the near future, I shouldn't think, but if he did, I think he'd get a very good reception. And that's nice that he wants to bring his kids back here one day.
And I get it too. I get this homecoming thing with Portsmouth because I had to walk the length and breadth of Portsmouth yesterday, and it was not a match day. Normally it's a match day, so I'm preoccupied either with the forthcoming match or doing the post-mortem on the game that
the last one.
that has just happened. And I was reminded. It felt like a homecoming for me because I wasn't born and bred in Portsmouth. I was brought up in a place called Feltham. And Feltham is very similar to Portsmouth. And I got this sense that I was coming home as I got off the station at Fratton Park and headed towards Southsea. Yeah. It felt like I was back home.
It's the familiarity.
And it felt good. Yeah. And now we've got Marlon, haven't we? And we've got Matt Ritchie and this possibility of this fella Swift and Yengi, who couldn't be born and bred further away from Fratton Park, and saying that he wants to bring his children here one day and say to them, Daddy used to play here. It's got something, hasn't it, going for it?
We have had a lot of players over the years who have come back for a second spell. Some successful, some not. But it's amazing how many players have done that with us. I'm sure every club has got a few, but it feels like we've got it happens more often here. Which must be something that's not just to do with the bare sort of football, is it, and how well you might have performed as a footballer. That has got to be something to do with whether you felt at home there, in not just at the club but in the city and in the area, and with the fans around you, and what sort of response you get when you go out and walk through Southsea or whatever. So that's nice, really, isn't it? In the way that we are a club that some want to come back to.
The landscape is unique. The buildings, somehow even the new ones feel as though they've been there for 100 years somehow. Not because of dilapidation or anything, just the way they fit into what is. Of course, we must never forget an island. And I told the people that I was having lunch with yesterday that Portsmouth is considered to be one of the most densely populated urban regions in the world. They went, "Oh, come on, we've been to New York and that sort of thing, and what about Bombay, Mumbai, I should say?" And I said, no, provided they've done a census, and I don't think they do census in India anymore, it would be too much of a headache. I think they skipped the last one, so nobody knows how many people live in India. No, but I said, Portsmouth, the island of Portsmouth, is extremely densely populated. When you consider that it's much smaller than the Isle of Wight, but it's got a bigger population, for example. That's because people live cheek by jowl. And feel cheek by jowl as well. Never more than on an alternate Saturday afternoon when there's 18,000 of us cheek by jowl.
Well, you only have to drive to Fratton Park, as I do for a home game, and you drive through the streets of sort of Cockney and North End, and you realise just how many streets there are like that. But it's all terraced houses. There's literally as many houses in the street as they could fit. One street back straight onto another one, and then another one after that. And you can feel it. You can feel how densely populated it is.
Well, there's something very northern town about it, isn't there? A number of Pompey fans I've heard saying, when we go to places like Barnsley and Doncaster, it just feels like the Fratton area of Portsmouth. You're almost humming the Coronation Street theme and expecting Ken Barlow to
whippets running along the streets and flat caps everywhere. I mean, what cliches can we come up with?
No, it's a lovely place, and people who are born and bred in Portsmouth and never leave, you can quite understand why. But let's get back to the pitch. There was a rumour yesterday which I enjoyed, so we published it on our news about an American footballer called Tompkinson, John Tompkinson, I believe it is. And he's
yes,
very
yes, I've heard
versatile.
about him.
And I'm beginning to wonder, I don't know, I must get your take on this. John Messina seems to be particularly interested in players who are versatile, who can play in a number of positions. And this guy is currently a central defender, but he has played centre midfield, and he started his career as a right winger.
Yeah, yeah, which is very versatile, isn't it? It's
Isn't
about
it?
as versatile as they come. I've seen his name mentioned. USA International, I think,
Yep.
isn't he? I've seen it. It's one of those that's been. It was mentioned a little while ago, and then it went quiet, and now it's come up again, which sometimes leads you to believe there's something in it. And he's had some experience over here at a good level. When I saw that he was first and foremost a central defender, I thought, well, we don't need another one of them, do we? Especially if we get Atkinson, we're going to be looking to offload one or two. But as you say, if he's someone who can play in midfield, maybe that is what if John Messina is looking at him, that maybe that's what he's got in mind for him, because that's the problem area at the moment, isn't it? Midfield, we're quite light.
It is.
We're going to need at least two permanent and one loan or something, you would think, in midfield. So he could fit the bill, and he's fairly young. He's kind of in the same mould as maybe a Hayden Matthews, who is a player who's seen as being good enough to come in and play straight away, but would develop and would improve over time, over a year or two as well. So there's a lot about that story that kind of fits the profile, really. So one to keep an eye on. So we could have a few Johns, couldn't we? We could have a John Tompkinson, a John Swift, all joining John Messina. Any other Johns out there that want to come and join us? We'd have a team full of Johns.
I bet there's a stat on that somewhere.
Probably.
And Smiths as well.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Bound to be.
Yeah, but then you see, you can't have too many 6'4" guys for set pieces, can you? And our friends at Lincoln are constantly reminding me that they are the kingpins of set plays. They've scored more from set pieces than anybody else in any of the 4 divisions, apparently. It's a stat that I would like to have on us. How many we've conceded at set pieces and how many we've converted in set pieces, because they're a very important part of football, aren't they? We know that.
Are. Yeah, if you're good at them and you get them right, if you've got a little corner routine that works, it can, you don't have to dominate a game to then be effective in if it's 0-0, 10 minutes to go, you get a couple of corners and you've won the game. And we did, season before last, in our title winning season, my impression is that we did quite well from set pieces, particularly corners, because we had Shaughnessy and Raggett knocking some of them in, and Paul got a few as well, 2 or 3.
And Ogilvie gets up onto the far post for corners, which clearly it's a decision made by the committee.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that he goes on the far post, which is usually where you want your big bloke.
Yeah,
you'd think.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, he's good in the air, though, I suppose.
He
isn't he? Good,
doesn't lose it in the air.
Makes his presence felt, as they say. My impression is we didn't do quite so well scoring from set pieces last season. I'm only doing that from sort of
the way it feels. Yeah, that's fair. That's good enough.
But I don't know. Yeah, it's good if you can get that right. Don't they say that Arsenal are very good at? They've got a very good conversion rate for them as well in the Premier. I think that's what they say. But it's all part of the game, isn't it? Really, get enough people in your team who are going to do well for you in both boxes.
Going to dominate. Yes,
you're laughing. Yeah.
I can't resist but ask you for your thoughts on the shambolic England performance earlier this week. What do you got to say?
Yeah. Well, I didn't watch it. I was on the one before the Senegal game, the Andorra game on Saturday. I don't really like watching England games because they're not very good, are they? I do when we get to World Cup finals or Euro finals, I'm all over it, and I watch Romania against Czech Republic or whatever you need to do. But England, between tournaments, you just know they're going to qualify very simply. You know they're going to dominate their group. You know it's not going to be very exciting. You only need to worry when they actually get to the finals and see what they're going to do there. But Saturday, I was so bored Saturday. It was raining, wasn't it? There wasn't much else on. So I did find myself watching a bit of Andorra v England, and I really wish I hadn't, because I was bored. That just made the day worse. That was a terrible performance. But they won. Harry Kane popped up, as he often does in these games, and got the goal. And then England v Senegal in the second week of June, as a friendly, must be one of the sort of least wanted football fixtures ever, I would think. I mean, why?
Really?
Why did they bother?
Absolute waste of time.
Why can't they just give these players a week or two off? And
well, as we said on the Pompey Sound News, Andorra are no longer the force that they never were.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you can't beat Andorra and some of these other teams, but yeah, and then to go and lose to Senegal, I think I saw somewhere it's the first time we've ever lost to a team from Africa. I don't know if that's right, but I think I saw that. It doesn't sound possible, does it? You would think
it doesn't crop up very often. And does it count because it was a friendly, or
well,
do friendlies count?
International? Yeah, I don't know. We certainly haven't lost to an African team in a competitive game, I don't think. Mm. But yeah, there's some big doubts over the manager already, aren't there? And people. I mean, I was always a big fan of Southgate, and I thought he gave us more hope and excitement than a lot of his predecessors. You know, you have to go back to Bobby Robson to find the last one who got us to a semi-final before him, and he did it a couple of times.
Yeah.
So I think it was probably time for him to go and give somebody else a chance. But anyone who thought that Tuchel was going to come in and be the master that would lead us to the World Cup straight away, I think is maybe having second thoughts about that. But my main takeaway from England is that why are they playing friendlies in June? Just stop for a few weeks. Yeah, I know you have to play the World Cup qualifiers, they have to be fitted in somewhere, but a friendly in June for England, it's not going to light too many fires, is it? It's not going to excite too many people.
I think I can get you on my side, because yesterday one outlet was running a piece saying that Pompey fans will have been scratching their heads trying to work out how come Nicola Schmidt was snubbed by not even being picked for the squad for Austria to play against Andorra. And I had to give the genuine opinion that they said to him, we don't really need a goalkeeper against Andorra. So have a night in with Netflix,
busy.
You know.
Yeah,
and he'd have gone, thank you, that's great. I really did not want to have to fly to Vienna.
No.
You know, get a taxi, stay in a hotel, train with the lads. I don't know.
We just don't need you, Nick. Yeah, exactly. If we needed someone who was going to make 10 good saves during a game against Andorra, we'd use you, but we didn't. He did play. He was on the bench for their other game, I think, wasn't he?
I think he was,
for Austria, which is good for it. You know, nice for him to get in the record in there, and we're not surprised by. We have watched him for most of last season, but yeah, he didn't miss much action by not playing against Andorra. I think that's probably a fair summary.
Yes. I don't know much about Austrian football. Do you? I know a little bit more about Swiss football because we sometimes meet Swiss teams playing games playing in Europe.
The Swiss always seem to get to the kind of last 16 of these tournaments, don't they?
Yeah.
There's Austria. It's a bit hit and miss with Austria, isn't it? Yeah, I don't.
Rapid Vienna is about the only team I could quote you, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas Switzerland, they've got some names that are unforgettable, like the Grasshoppers, isn't it?
Yes.
And the Bad Boys of Bern or something.
Bern. Yeah. They've got young boys, I think, haven't they? And they're Swiss, aren't they?
Yes, yeah. Now, I've just been reminded in my own head of a very funny letter to Viz magazine, which was, since the Germans have got Dynamo Berlin, whatever, and the Italians have got AC Milan, why don't we start naming our football teams after electrical components?
That's good, very good.
It was, it made me laugh out loud.
That's typical Viz, isn't it?
Yeah, no, our club names are all pretty basic, aren't they? It's the region or the area or the town or the city where the club
Yeah.
is based.
It is,
But
yeah,
Pompey
that's
are
obvious.
universally known now as Pompey. It practically is overtaking Portsmouth FC as being the
Yeah.
official name of the club, and yet no one knows why Pompey is Pompey.
No,
There are various
different
theories,
about it,
yeah.
aren't there? But
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting when the nickname takes over from the main name. That's quite unusual, isn't it? Yeah. But I suppose if you've got enough people in, Australia, for example, where we've done a lot of business, if people there start following us because of their players being here, and they will see that we all call them Pompey, that they will do the same, I
Yeah.
suppose. It's a good sign that we're becoming globally known, which is what I'm sure
Yes, that's
the
what
owners
they're
want.
after. Wasn't it you that told us that Tottenham Hotspur had written to everybody, all journalists, and said, we are, what was it, no longer to be called Tottenham?
Yes, that's right. What was it? It was you can call us Spurs if you want to, because that's our nickname, but don't just call us Tottenham. If you're going to use Tottenham, it has to be Tottenham Hotspur. But which was a good, writing to media and so on, and the word getting out that you've done that is a good way to make sure everybody then does call you just Tottenham, just
To annoy you.
Yeah, it's odd though, isn't it? Well,
Well, there are
surely
strange
it's a
things
natural-
about. I mean, what is a Hotspur? It's a character. Isn't there a Hotspur in Shakespeare, Henry V or something? There's a hot-headed Welshman called Hotspur.
Yeah,
and
maybe that's where it
then
came
their emblem is a cockerel wearing the fighting spur that they used to put on fighting hens, cocks,
Yes.
fighting cocks. You can say that.
Yeah.
It's odd, just
It is
plain odd.
yeah.
And how come the
Some-
Pompey badge is effectively the emblem of Islam? How did that come
Yeah.
about?
I don't know.
The crescent moon and the
The star.
yes, is
Yeah.
this a symbol of Islam? I don't know. I'm not an expert, so I can't say if it's the symbol of Islam, like the cross is the symbol of Christianity.
Yeah, yeah.
But how come?
Don't know.
Almost on a
Don't know.
caprice.
That is, every week you ask me a question that is designed to throw me, and you've certainly managed it without
No. I'm just.
I know. Yeah.
What I'm doing is I'm
Putting it out there, as they
sticking
say,
things in gaps because there is no football news, nothing concrete at all. So what was I going to say?
there's
Oh yeah,
not.
I did try to find out why Plymouth Argyle are called Argyle,
Right.
and again the answer is no one knows.
Which is nice.
Argyle is a region in
it's-
Scotland.
I think it's good to have some things that people just don't know the answer to or can't remember the origins of. Yeah.
Well, we know why they're nicknamed the Pilgrims, because the founding fathers sailed in the Mayflower from Plymouth, didn't they?
That's right.
And
yes.
so, hence,
Yeah.
Pilgrims.
That's an obvious one. Yeah.
That kind of works. And
Yeah.
we know all about Pompey's nautical associations and why there's still a sailor who goes round before each home game. Used to be
absolutely,
the legendary Barry
Harris.
Barry Harris,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And
yes.
it's still-
Regards
can
to you,
still
Barry,
be-
if you're listening.
Can still be seen at Fratton Park on a match day. He doesn't do the on-the-pitch stuff now, but he's still around.
Yep.
I think he's 80-something now, but and he did have a little period of ill health, but he's still around. When I used to work at the news, he would often phone up if he'd seen something that was perhaps in the Sports Mail that had said Pompey hadn't lost to Plymouth since 1976, and in fact it was 1975. He'd be straight on the phone.
He'd be there
in a nice way, in a constructive way, saying,
yeah.
"Oh, just wanted to point out." Knows his Pompey history so well. I mean, he's been at most games since about 1958, I think. So
Yes.
that's why. But yeah, great figure. He used to get the crowd going.
Burns
He's
into your
now-
mind, doesn't it?
It does.
I was chatting to people yesterday about Pompey, and I was recounting this little feature that we're cooking, which is, what's your favourite quirky memory of the season that's just ended? I think you and I may have half had this conversation. Mine, I'd settled for Christian Sadie being instructed by Matt Ritchie how to basically act as a brick wall.
Yeah.
To wind the clock down. Yeah, to wind the clock down in the corner.
It was great, but it was a great bit of theatre. That was.
It was the way he was Ritchie was directing him like those guys directing planes on the runway. You know, they have those
That's right.
sort of table tennis bats, and they're directing. Go here now. Come around here. Come around here.
Make sure he can't get there.
Do it this way. Do it this way. Brilliant.
It's part of the appeal of football, isn't it? Is to not necessarily just to watch the game, but just to look for the things that other people won't see. And I know you like doing that very much from the south stand, don't you? You'll pick on an individual.
Well,
was it not you that was the first to do a case study of Kyle Walker when he was playing for QPR? You caught your eye.
Oh yeah, you could tell he had something. It was the professionalism with which he accepted a kick to his foot, knowing that it was going to happen, nevertheless going through with it, getting the injury, and as he went down, he was subtly waving for the medics to come on and have a look at it. And I thought, this guy's a pro. Anybody else would have been angry or writhing around, but he's total professional.
Into the game. Yeah.
It was a good game. That I remember it so well because it had everything. I think it was a 3-3 draw, and there were 2 red cards because there was a scuffle on the pitch. And I know you're supposed to decry scuffling on the pitch, but it means that they care.
Oh no,
they're not just in it for the money.
Yeah, absolutely. People like their own team to get a few yellow cards sometimes, don't they? It shows they're putting the effort in a way.
They do.
Tackles flying in and everything. If you lose 5-0 and nobody's been booked, it suggests that they haven't tried very hard.
There is that. But you want to spread them around.
Yes.
You don't want the same guy getting 5 yellow cards.
No. Because
then you're inconvenienced. And I have looked at Pompey's yellow cards. If there is a pattern, it is that they take it in turns to get yellowed.
Oh, today, that's quite clever.
Yeah, so I think I did a tally halfway through last season, and there were plenty of players with 1 and 2 yellow cards, but hardly anybody. I think maybe Marlon Pack was just broaching the 4 mark.
Yeah.
But that was it. Apart from that, 8 or 10 players had been yellowed.
Yeah.
And it was spread around.
Instructions that if anyone's going to get booked today, chaps, it needs to be you, or you, or you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, clever really, because you don't want a key person to be suddenly suspended for a couple of games, before the season started. Hardly, because you get one game ban for 5 yellows, don't you? And then 2 if you rack up 10
over a slightly longer period of time. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. If you 10 by February or something, you get a couple of games.
The authorities are doing their best to stamp out. People stamping on people, basically, if you can put it like that. But speaking of that, do you feel one of the things that we could be looking for in this transfer window, when it becomes a proper transfer window, is an enforcer in midfield?
I suppose we are, really, aren't we? Yeah, I think you need a bit of physicality in there, don't you? You need someone who's a bit rough and ready to put their foot in. I suppose to an extent you've got that with Marlon Pack. He's not really an enforcer, is he? But he can, You
wouldn't argue with him, would you?
No, that's right. No,
I've got an image of him just after Pompey had scored a goal, and he was happy, but far from looking happy, he looked as if he was about to bite somebody. There was still that kind of
just
about him. Do you know the look I mean?
Yeah,
with that beard and those eyebrows.
Yeah.
Narrowed eyes.
Yeah.
Don't come near me and think you're going to go past me.
A bit of aggression used in the right way is part of football, isn't it? And you need it at this Championship. It would be very easy for a team to be bullied and overpowered if they didn't have a bit of that in their team. And you get that. Sometimes you get that from having a big 6'4" unit in the middle, and doesn't have to be midfield. He can be in defence or he can be up front. But if you've got a sort of backbone like that to the team, if you've got those sort of players in defence, midfield, and maybe one up front as well, then you've got a chance.
Yes.
In this division.
One of the people I was having a bite with yesterday knew somebody who'd encountered Sir Stanley Matthews, the great Stanley Matthews, who insisted on wearing the most feather-light boots he could possibly find, offering him no protection whatsoever because he felt it sped him up and it gave him better touch. But he was very vulnerable, and when he played for Stoke, they had a player whose job was to protect Stanley Matthews.
Oh, right.
And one time this guy was giving Matthews a hard time, really hammering him. And so the enforcer said to Matthews, next time you get the ball, pass it to me, but make it a 50-50, that the other bloke's got a chance.
Yeah.
Right?
So he'll go for it, yeah.
And it happened, and he broke him in 2. the enforcer just gave it all back to him.
Doing his job.
And I said to this guy, well, you know your football. Does that go on in the game today? And he said, I don't think so, not with all this technology. And
harder to get away with now.
Harder to get away with now, exactly.
If you time it slightly wrong, you get
you're off.
Violent conduct.
He said the enforcer would have been sent straight off in this day and age, at any level of football for what he did, because it was a clear cut.
Interesting.
Assault, really, an assault, like Roy Keane's assault on Haaland.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a criminal offence, really, wasn't it? He didn't go to court for it. He could have done, I reckon.
You do
just about.
You get. I mean, the worst one we've ever seen in a Pompey game was when away to Man City 2006, Ben Thatcher on Pedro Mendes basically elbowed him quite violently into the advertising hoardings, and he was lucky not to be more seriously injured than he was. And I think he only got a yellow card at the time. I think he might have got a longer ban in retrospect. I can't remember now, but that was a nasty one. And 6 months later, Ben Thatcher was then playing for Charlton and came to Fratton Park with Charlton and was the villain all afternoon.
Oh yeah.
But unfortunately Pompey fans spent all their afternoon booing Ben Thatcher, and inevitably Charlton won 1-0, and so he went away happy. But yeah, you get incidents like that. Some take it too far, don't they?
It was a harder game in times gone by. Not that long ago, actually. We're not talking about 1920 here.
No, we're talking about late.
Do you miss
20th
it?
Century, really.
Do you miss that combat?
Bit, yeah. I think people like a feisty tackle and a bit of argy-bargy sometimes. I think it can get the crowd going a little bit, can't it? It can get a team going a little bit if you feel a bit hard done by. In an incident or a tackle or something like that. These days, there's so many. The laws of football have changed so much to outlaw even certain types of tackle now, haven't they? Even there are now certain tackles that even if you win the ball, you can be done for because of the way you've gone into the tackle. Excessive force and all that. Which I can understand. You've got to change with the times, and you've got to outlaw things that are dangerous. But at the same time, it's a contact sport, and people like to see arms and legs flying around a bit sometimes.
And some players like it to be known that they're hard men, that they're men. They've got lots of testosterone. They need to shave twice a day because it just comes flying out of their face, and they're geezers, proper geezers. There was a Spurs centre-half way back called Maurice Norman, who, legend has it, he was a hard man, fair, but, strong and brave and what have you. The story goes that he broke his leg on the pitch. He had his leg broken. And when the medic got to him with a bucket of water and a sponge, he was trying to pull his sock up over the break because you could see a bit of bone. And he tried to pull his sock up over it to conceal the fact that his leg was broken because he wanted to carry on. That's how the story goes. And I like to believe it.
There have been instances of people breaking a bone but not knowing it and playing on for a bit, hasn't there? But that it doesn't sound like he would have been in any doubt about the fracture.
No, he could see it.
But he still wanted to play on. He wouldn't have got far.
And then there was that goalkeeper who played a cup final, most of a cup final, with a broken neck.
That's right. Yeah, Bert Troutman.
Late
50s. Yeah.
Former prisoner of war, wasn't he? A German national who liked it and stayed. But no, I've probably just made that up, so we can forget that. I'll leave it in because it's conspicuous, and we like bits of conspicuousness, don't we? Speaking of conspicuous, he went all Alan Partridgey. Last week you teased us with news of a game of football with an absurd scoreline.
I did, didn't I? Yeah, this was after telling the story of the match where one team ended up trying to score at both ends because a goal either for them or against them would put them through, but which I think from memory is Barbados against Grenada. In researching that to delight the listener with, I came across the record score for a proper football match, if you like, which you previously thought was your friends from Arbroath and Bonaccord. 36-0,
Yep.
but I can not only can I beat 36-0, I can smash it into the distance with a game that finished 149-0.
No.
And it's a proper game.
No, just
it's
no.
A proper association football match, and I'll give you the details then. AS Adema against SO Lemien, I think it's pronounced, and this took place in Madagascar in 2003. And there is a story behind it, because the only way, if you think about it, you can get a game that's finishing 149-0 is either if the team conceding the goals isn't trying, or in fact it's the team conceding the goals actually scoring the goals. In other words, own goals. So there was a four-team round robin playoff to determine the national championship in Madagascar. The league crown went to Adema after the reigning champions at the time, SO Lemien, were held to a 3-3 draw by another team in their penultimate match. In other words, that 3-3 draw was the end of their campaign. It was a very controversial game. There was a disputed penalty against them, and they were not happy about it, to the point where in their remaining game, which was being played after the championship had been settled, they decided to protest, and they spent the whole game deliberately scoring own goals. So from kick-off, passed it back, past their own keeper, he didn't try to save it, and because they've conceded, they are then the ones kicking off time and time again, and in the 90 minutes they managed to score 149 goals.
It's great. I'd pay to watch 60 seconds of that if it's on YouTube.
Well, exactly, yeah. Now, the Wikipedia entry on this said that some reports suggested that certain spectators approached ticket booths requesting refunds. I'd have been the opposite. I wouldn't have wanted to miss any of that.
No.
Because you're seeing something that nobody will ever see again, really, aren't you?
You are. I was there.
Yeah, exactly. And so obviously there was repercussions of it. After the match, the coach was banned for 3 years. 4 of the team's players, who were the sort of key ringleaders in this, were banned. And one of them actually was the captain of the Madagascar national football team at the time, and he wasn't often seen again.
Blimey.
So various people suspended and everything else, and in fact 4 years later the club dissolved, though it is not thought that they dissolved directly because of that. But yeah, 149-0. You're not going to see that again, are you?
These oddities really should have a worldwide audience. It's a great shame that we don't have a definitive collection of things such as the time that a team had to score or concede a goal.
Yeah.
Score an own goal or score a real goal.
Yeah.
That's a terrific oddity. This one's even better.
Yeah,
I think
it's a shame that some of these happened in the days before all matches were televised.
Yeah,
it? Because you'd love to see, if people would still be watching that and watching it again now, wouldn't they? And I can just tease you for next week.
Excellent.
Given that we've now heard about a team who kept scoring in their own net without the other team presumably having a chance to touch the ball. Next week, if I can bear to, I will relive the day that Pompey managed to concede 2 goals in quick succession without the opposition touching the ball in between the 2 goals that they scored.
Conceded 2 goals?
Pompey conceded twice, and between the first and the second, the opposition did not touch the ball.
Yeah,
listeners of a certain age will know the game I'm talking about. It's
I've got the
famous
stirring of a memory here, but I can't get any flesh on it at all.
It's 41 years ago. But we will save it for next week.
Is it a unique one? Has anybody else done it? Do you know, or is it just us?
Probably it's been done once or twice. But Pompey fans only remember their own team doing it. And it was a couple of famous players who are still talked about to this day who were involved as well, who probably don't like us talking about it, or would rather we'd forgotten about it by now, but we'll never forget it. Those who were there, I was there to see it.
Did you ever score an own goal when you played footy?
I think I did a few once or twice for the school team. nothing too spectacular. No 30-yard lobs from over your own keeper, but a few that flew in off a shin or something. Happens, doesn't it?
Well, I was at a Fulham game when I was a boy, and we had a fullback called George Cohen, who had been part of the England 1966 team. He was a very venerable player, very authoritative player. And I was down at the Hammersmith end, not 20 feet from him, when the ball bounced in Fulham's area that they were defending, and Cohen decided to give it away for a corner. But he didn't just put it over the goal line. He smashed it out of the ground. He smashed it into Bishop's Park, right? And I can see still the look on his face, knowing he was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So, a couple of seasons later, I'm in our box, right? We were winning 1-0, and I'd scored the goal. It was a very scrappy goal. It was 1-0 to us, and the ball bounced in the penalty area. And I thought, if it's good enough for George Cohen, it's good enough for me. So I tried to kick it across the road to Sunbury Clock Tower, and it went right into the top corner.
Oh no.
One of the best strikes I've ever made.
And if at the other end you had tried to do the same and smash it into the right top corner,
it would have gone
to Sunbury
Clock Tower. Yeah, yeah. But I think when it's a 1-1 draw and you've scored both, it's a game you remember.
Well, somebody did that in an FA Cup final, didn't they?
I think you're right. Go on.
Tommy Hutchinson, I think it was.
Was it?
Man City player, scored for Man City against Tottenham and then scored at the other end as well. And it was a draw, and Man City lost the replay to that famous Ricky Villa goal.
Oh, where he walked into the net.
Yeah, it weaved past about three players.
Yeah, it was a kind of a weave. He was just desperately trying to hold on to the ball, I thought, and three men went the wrong way.
Yeah,
but anyway,
glue on his boot or something.
Yes, that famous Argentine connection that Spurs had with him, and it was Ozzy Ardiles.
Yeah, that's right. Both great players, weren't they?
Yeah, Trailblazers.
Yeah,
they were.
Definitely. Yeah, came here late 70s, I think. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get you next week if I remember, and I'll make a note of it in the diary. So I will. I'm going to get all of our correspondence. So this will be you, and Mick Robertson, Sam Stone, blah blah blah, and I'll do it as well, and I'll get the listener to do it, to make a concrete prediction of where you think Pompey are most likely to finish in the Championship next season. Really a stinker of a thing to predict, but it'll be interesting to see what sort of a consensus we get.
Yeah. Well, I can remember that last season, you I don't know if you did it with everybody last season, but you certainly asked me for my prediction, and I said we would finish, rather optimistically, I said we would finish 9th last season, and we didn't. We actually weren't that many points off.
Only a few points off the top half.
Another 2 wins, and we might have been close to that.
Yeah, we would.
But I will give that some thought. I will study. I will remind myself who's in the division with us next season, because I've forgotten, and I will come up with an answer to that.
Thank you. And who was that with you on this one who was very well behaved? Was it Archie or...?
They were both here. They were both very well behaved. Archie and I had Archie one side of me, Barney the other side, like a midfield three. And they were both well behaved.
And you're the enforcer, yeah?
They've now, so I'm the Marlon Pack.
Yes.
And they've now both lost interest in our conversation.
Did we hear one of them having a drink whilst we were talking?
You might have done.
I think so.
Yes.
I was going to point out that my maxim is always never have a drink before or during a broadcast, never refuse one afterwards.
Sorry, that's got you through a lot of years of broadcasting.
I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Lovely talking to you as ever, Steve.
And to you.
Have a good week and talk soon.
And you look forward to the next one.